Hello baby gangsters, this is the community video where I ask questions and also answer questions. And the first question is from Solvix, and it's what anime have you watched? Curious since you mentioned a few, but it'd be cool to get more chat about it. And I agree, it would be cool to talk about all this stuff more. I suppose I've watched a lot of anime. But obviously I won't be able to remember absolutely everything. I have a top 10 anime videos that I did of my top 10 favorite animes. It has changed since then. But the likes of Mob Psycho, Jujutsu Kaisen, Samurai Champloo, The Great Pretender. My favorite anime of all time is Monster. I've recently watched Pluto, currently watching Noragami and Vinland Saga. Of course, I've watched Attack on Titan. Of course, I've seen kind of a lot of the popular ones because they generally tend to be really good as well, as long as along with being super popular. Haikyuu is also one of my favorite anime ever created. There's also, I probably already said Mob Psycho, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter. What else have we seen? We've seen so much. Parasite the Maxim. I'd have to make a full-on list. There's so many shows that I've seen that I actually really, really adore. And Future Diary was one of the first ones I see. Death Note was one of the first ones I've seen. I got into anime, I guess you could say when I watched Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, but I don't really count that too much because that's a show everyone even it is an anime, but I didn't even see it as an anime as a kid, so I wasn't really getting into anime. It was just this is a show that's on every day at 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? That's what I saw. I didn't know what anime was. So I didn't really see it as an anime, but you could see it as an anime for sure. It is an anime. But then I guess the first show that I was I remember I was in talking to a friend, and they showed me a song from Death Note. And I was like, holy hell, this is so good. And also how I got into one of my favorite bands, Maximum the Hormone. And I remember I got into that band that way, but I remember listening to the song and being this anime has theme songs like this. And now I listen to anime theme songs all the freaking time. It's crazy. But yeah, if you want to know my top 5 favorite of all time, Monster's number 1 for sure. Beck is still up there. I have an affinity towards Beck a lot. Samurai Champloo is up there. Haikyuu is up there. But again, I don't know how the list has changed since the last time I made my top 10 anime list, but I'll put that in the description below and you guys can check it out if you want. There's probably gonna be shows there on that list that I haven't mentioned here, not because I'm easily forgetful, because there's such a gigantic amount of shows that can be put into this. It's such a gigantic amount of anime that can be put into this. Of course, you can always ask me to see if I've seen one, and if I haven't, then I'll always the recommendations. What's Your Damage asks, what is one of your absolute favorite TV shows? I know you mentioned you watched Shameless, and I got really interested, so I tried to put on the first episode in front of my parents. I immediately had to back out after less than 2 minutes because of the neighbors. Shameless is a show that I would feel very weird to watch with my parents, I suppose. Shameless is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think that in terms of 1 hour shows, it is probably my favorite 1 hour show. I love The Sopranos and stuff like that as well, but that Shameless just has such an affinity towards it. If I can't choose Monster, which is my favorite piece of writing ever, maybe apart from 20th Century Boys the manga, but Monster is my favorite TV show. If I had to choose just a non-anime TV show, it would be Shameless probably. Shameless means the absolute world to me. It is everything to me. I think about those characters all the time. I talk about the show all the time. I would recommend it to anyone. But yeah, the Shameless American version is definitely my favorite show of all time. And it's so funny because this last year I had a incredible run of watching TV shows where I watched in a row. Can you imagine how ruined television is for me now, that every show I nearly not look down on, but it's hard to find a show that you're this is amazing now, since I watched The Sopranos, then I watched Lost, then I watched Shameless, and then I watched Succession. I watched these 4 incredible shows in a row, and it was it's so hard to find a show that I'm I love this so much, because it's I spoiled myself for 4 shows in a row. Sometimes you have to watch an average show in between, but they were really good. But yeah, I'd say Shameless is probably my favorite 1 hour show for sure, and my favorite but Monster's my overall favorite show, but Shameless is my favorite show that's not an anime. Yeah. Zevi asks, I don't know if anyone's asked this yet, but if someone has, let me know. In context of Genshin, if you were to have a nation, vision, and weapon in Genshin, which one would you think you would have or you'd like? Do you think do you have skills you want yourself or your character to have? You don't have to be intricate if you don't want to. I just like hearing what people give themselves, because it speaks to both their favorite and maybe even the playstyle and role they put themselves in. It's kinda like picking an RPG classes, it is. Thank you again for the fun playthroughs you put out. Always excited to watch them. Thank you so much, Zevi. Zevi, that's so kind. Even saying that, it always means the world to me when people like love the videos and express their love for the videos. If I had to pick a weapon, it'd be the Iron Sting, just because it's the coolest looking weapon in the game, in my opinion. I think it looks so freaking neat. If I had to pick a nation that I'd live in so far of all these nations, I think it would be Inazuma. The only reason that like I might pick Liyue instead is because I feel like I'd be able to have like more of a like more days off in Liyue than I would in Inazuma, just because like while like Inazuma like is less focused on like contracts and business, I feel like there's also an energy to a day off, right? It's like, yes, I could probably have 2 days off in Inazuma, 1 day off in Liyue, but the day off in Inazuma, you know, that place was pretty dangerous for a long time. Liyue is dangerous too, but like Liyue, you could sit on the harbor, have a nice sandwich, you know what I mean? Like just watch like the sunset and the boats come in. Sounds absolutely peaceful, so I'd probably say Liyue. In terms of like where I'd want to live. Vision, I want to say Animo just because it's what I have the most of, but I think probably like I don't think I'm as light as I on my feet as I think I would be. So maybe like a water. Maybe water. But if it's what I want to have, like I'd love to have like geo powers. Like, because again, I'm just thinking of Toph Beifong, you know? And like what you could do with those rock powers. And also like every time we use like a rock character in the game, because it's like we don't have a lot of them, like a geo character in the game. They all their moves are very like boom, boom, like it's like so like impactful. So maybe I'd like to be like have like a geo a vision. And also you asked as well, you asked a nation, a vision, and a weapon. Yeah. So that's basically, so I live in Liyue, I'd probably have a Geo Vision, and I'd use the Iron Sting, which is so weird because like Geo and Iron Sting probably don't go well together, but it's definitely what I'd pick. Thank you so much for that, Zevi. Shallow asks, have you watched an psychological anime called Monster? I was just talking about this today, actually. If it's not, I highly recommend it in your spare time. I believe 60 episodes, maybe a lot. But trust me, you'll run clean through the series before you know it. Yes, no, I actually rewatch it a lot. I'm really glad there's a lot of people that love Monster because it is like my favorite like overall show of all time. I absolutely love it. Yeah, no, I have watched it. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, Shalom. I actually first watched Monster when I think I started watching it in college, like a long time ago. What happened was there was like this guy who like was just always there in college, and he like just recommended like an anime to me. Like, you know, that type of guy that's just always there, like always around. And he kind of, I was like talking to him about anime and stuff like this, and he's like, what are you into? And I'm like, oh, more serious kind of like psychological stuff and things like this. And he was like, you gotta check out Monster. It's a really good show. And I didn't check it out for years, but it's one of those things that, you know, when you're like searching through stuff, and like Monster is on YouTube, the whole thing dubbed, because they only have the sub version on Netflix, which is fine. I actually didn't like how Netflix actually scrubbed the original dub version from YouTube once they did the sub, because it's like it's okay, like, you know, if you're gonna do just the sub, then keep the dub up, you know what I mean? But I know they want people to go to their platform. I understand that. But then they uploaded a new dub. Someone uploaded another dub of the show. It's actually like just one of my favorite shows of all time. And I remember when I saw it as I was scrolling through YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, that guy, that dude, what was his name? Oh, he recommended that. And like, it turned out to be like my favorite show ever. It's so freaking good. So scary at times. The best horror villain and psychological villain ever. And probably one of the best protagonists ever as well. What is a story? Be it a movie, a manga, anime, or game that you really love but lost you with a disappointing twist ending. This is weird because I said before that Beck is my favorite, one of my favorite, top 5 favorite animes of all time. I hope I said Beck before. If I didn't say Beck, it's here now. We'll look over it. But I read the manga because like the anime ends like on a really perfect note where, like, you know, I won't say what it ends on because I don't want to spoil anything, but like it ends on a really perfect note. And then the manga goes ahead and like expands upon all that, and like you go forward with everything. And it's not really the ending, I suppose, that ruins it, but it is like, I feel like the portrayal of a few of the characters, like I was at some points I was like very, very hurt by it, if that makes sense. I know it sounds so weird to be hurt by a story, but it was kind of like, like this is not. And maybe it's my expectations of a character that ruined it for me a bit, but like, I guess it wasn't ruined, but it was like, this kind of hurts. It kind of hurts seeing the characters like being like drawn like this, and not drawn like this, but written like this in some ways. It was one specific character that I was like, okay, it's a bit weird, like how they're been written. But in terms of a twist ending that like kind of like ruined it for me, I'm trying to think if there's anything like that. Like I was like, oh my god, this is too much here. Maybe like maybe Silent Hill Homecoming, because like I thought that Silent Hill Homecoming, if it didn't have the Silent Hill name, would be it's a really good horror game. But the ending twist is like, it's silly. It's like kind of silly. It's like, okay, like dude, like it's one of those endings where like, I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's one of those endings where you're not like, it's not like, oh my god. It's more like, oh my god. All right, that kind of ending. And I think that in the end, it kind of just like solidified that game as like not being as popular as it could be, even though like it actually is a good horror game for the most part of it. And then like it gets to that part and it's like, oh, this is just so weird and derivative. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that would be what I pick if that applies, Malcolm. And the last question is from Geonave. And it is, can you tell me more about your favorite games? To be specific, what aspects do you like most from them? Or did any of your favorite characters came with it? Or did any of your favorite characters... Yeah, okay. My favorite game of all time is Shadow of the Colossus. This is a game I played when I was like 11 years old for the first time. And it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't even like believe that this game was even like possible. And still to this day, no one has been able to replicate what that game was truly able to do. There was a remake of it, but the remake doesn't do it justice as much as like the actual original was. Because it's like, it made it very clean. But the whole thing about Shadow of the Colossus is that world feels forbidden, and it feels like you're not allowed to be there. And that's like the remake feels like it's like, this is so pretty. But it's like, it's like, but the original's really pretty too. But it also has this air of like, this place makes me nervous every step I take. Yeah, and the aspects I liked about Shadow of the Colossus were just like, again, those feelings of not being supposed to be there, these gigantic monsters that terrified me, the landscapes, the actual, like, I think Shadow of the Colossus has given me fears for the rest of my life, like the fear of underwater. I think Shadow of the Colossus was the thing that made me scared of the underwater forever. Also, Final Fantasy X is my second favorite game of all time. I love the companionship, the friendship. As a kid, when I played this for the first time, I bought it because my friend had played Final Fantasy 7 and he swore by it, and I was like, well, 10's 3 more than 7. As a kid, I thought I had that brain where I was like, well, that's 3 more. It's gotta be good, And it was good. It was incredible. And I replay it like once a year. And I think like what happened with me there is that like it's a love story, and it created my love for love stories and created my love for like companionship and like and friendship. I think it like really is like something that like I can look back on at any time and be like, okay, that's where like my video game love for like parties, like party members started. It was in Final Fantasy X. My third favorite game of all time is Nier Replicant. And Nier Replicant just has an incredible soundtrack. It has an incredible energy to it. It's also a game that like doesn't feel forbidden. It feels poisonous, if that makes sense. Like it feels as you're playing this game, like the deeper you go, like the worse things are getting, but also at the same time, like not in terms of quality, but in terms of like how the world is being treated, how people are being treated. But there's also this hope that's like sprinkled throughout the entire game that like means so much to me. And the writing is fantastic. The combat is fantastic. But the music is just like such a highlight for me with that stuff. And of course, after that, there's Persona and Genshin. Persona, of course, as well, is just like a game that like I like. Persona 4, I played in like one of the worst times of my life, and it really saved me. That ending like was the one like I remember it was such a specific feeling of like looking at my PS Vita as I was lying on my bed finishing Persona 4 Gold and hearing the music and hearing everyone saying like like the ending to this game, and I'm just like. Hand on my arm on my eyes, like nearly like convulsing with crying. It was ugly. It was ugly because I was crying so much. Yeah, but just a really emotional game. And of course, Genshin Impact is a game that like changed everything for me. I think about it all the time. As beautiful landscapes, as beautiful music, amazing characters, amazing story points, incredible cutscene direction. Has all this stuff. So that's my top 5. Of course, there's like Resident Evil Remake as well. Is in my top 10 because, again, it's my favorite horror game ever created. And, of course, there's Tekken. There's so many games, like, I could go into this forever. I might do, like, a top 50 favorite games of all time thing just so we can actually talk about more of them. But if I started talking about it now, you would not be able to stop me. Thank you so much for that, Junave. I also asked a question to the community video section of this, where it's a video game character that you love. And the first one is from What's Your Damage? And it says, I've said it before, but I really love Aether and Lumine. It does pain me a lot that the community doesn't acknowledge them as their own characters, rather as self-inserts, because they have such cool lore and things you can speculate about. It's unfair that they're treated the way that they are. Anyway, without delving too much into the spoilers for you, I love the design. They're so out of place in Genshin's world and make them personal in their role as an alien, literally and figuratively, and their little quips and even small character changes in animations to cutscenes to put their detail, how even... sorry, I'm bad at reading here. How even though they're twins, they're different, and it even affects a certain Sumeru storyline. No matter who you play as, I have such an aching fondness for the twins. It's so heartbreaking whenever I notice Aether and Lumine's character come out, and whenever I know... Oh yeah, and since I listened to the English dub, Zach and Sarah do an amazing job at giving them a voice when the recording studio wants to pay them. And again, it shows how different they are. I don't care whoever is canon, but I also have a fondness for either of them, and I could write little paragraphs on them, honestly. I collect their art like Pokemon cards. I need more main character appreciators, please. Okay, let me stop this. It's going to be an essay. Stan Aether and Lumine roll credits. No, I agree. I've talked about it several times, how like you look at the... After they will be reunited, it was such a change for Aether's character for me, where... he had moments before, and like, you know, moments, and specifically like in cutscenes and different conversations, we saw the conversations with like Ningguang and like what he wants, and like, and he's always asking questions about his sister. But you saw a real change in his personality, where he was not like still an unbelievably lovely person, but like there's moments now where Aether's like a lot less forgiving with people, especially people that waste his time, because he's like, I've gone on this journey now, and you're doing this, and I'm trying my best to find my sister. There's moments specifically where he gets frustrated with people, and that didn't happen before that quest. And I truly believe that, like, we could say it's like unintentional, or maybe or it's intentional, either or. But the fact is, it's in the game where after that quest, we started noticing a lot of the choices that you have for Aether have like literally are like go from being like, okay, yes, and all this stuff to like literally like Aether being like someone will be talking too much, and Aether will be like, get to the point. You know what I mean? And like, why that like seems like it's rude, I feel like it's also a fantastic character detail. It's a fantastic character detail to have a character in your game, you know, have dialogue changes after a specific thing happens that was crazy in their life. Yeah, I do think that they have like a big change. And it's not, by the way, I'm not saying that they're rude, by the way, because they're not rude. It's just that they have like more of like they have less of a tolerance for bullshit, I guess is what we'll say, as the game goes on, while also still being an absolutely lovely person. And I do feel like that they are their own characters. I actually thought I heard a wasp. Did I hear a wasp? Huh? How'd you get in? Felicious Felix says, I wanted to add to the Aether and Lumine love. I absolutely love the twins. I think they deserve appreciation. I sort of understand Hoyoverse was going with the silent protagonist route, having them not speak as the main character in only specific moments, have them speak up. I get people want them to speak more. I do too, but honestly, the moments we get just make hearing them even better, since they're special. I do, yeah, that is very true. I absolutely hate it when people say they have no personality. It's obvious in the lines, even in the character menu, they clearly have personality. Anyway, I love the siblings and the relationship with each other and Paimon. It's so true as well, yeah, adding to like what your damage said as well. It's so true that like in the character choices, even before that big moment, by the way, even before the moment where it's like I said, there was a change. There still was like really funny dialogue and really funny like there still is, but there was really funny dialogue, really funny answers. Paimon and like Aether in my game at the very least, like, you know, would constantly like, you know, have this like really partners in crime vibe that they would have, like, which I always really enjoyed. But yeah, you're so right. It is they are more than just silent protagonists. But I think that's one of the strengths, is that they can do both for a lot of people. But I think, you know, when you disregard their character completely, obviously then you're missing out on like some really great moments, because Aether especially like and Lumine have some great gigantic moments in the game that are like, holy hell. Malcolm Conde says, so there's a game called Genshin Impact. Just kidding. Okay. It's called Kenshi. It's an open world reactive sandbox. Picture a post-apocalyptic The Sims. There aren't any quests nor story to follow. You're just a random character who could open up a shop, go bounty hunting, recruit people, and start a new country, etc. To the east, there's a town surrounded by cannibalistic insect people, but entirely safe inside. When you get there, there's a fellow who takes interest in you, and their name is Beep. Beep is also an insect person, but a completely sane and lovely chap. They were exiled from the tribe for being too naive, and unlike most others you encounter in that world, they're happy to immediately join your party and travel with you. Beepus, however, extremely weak and will immediately die the moment they get into combat. So to keep them safe, it's best to have them train and replace their weak flesh limbs with superior mechanical ones, just to keep them alive. They're a child for the group who shall always be protected. That's interesting, having like a character as well. Like, I guess that was like kind of like excommunicated from like their tribe, that for, I guess, not wanting to be like a cannibal, I guess, and being too naive. And like, I think it's so sweet having characters that like will like get hit. And you know, I like, if anyone's watched my Pokemon playthrough, I have like such like a affinity towards characters that like you know, don't have the most strength but try their absolute best. And this sounds like one of them. But this game sounds like, I've never actually heard of Kenshi at all. But then again, that usually happens with this Patreon, where you guys will show me stuff that I've never heard of in my life, and I get to like find a new thing. But I just love the idea of a character who's like has to die in one hit, and you have to train them and replace their weak flesh limbs with superior mechanical ones, which is insane as well. By the way, it sounds like something I've never even heard of before, like this insect party member that you have to like give them like new mechanical limbs. But I do love the idea of a character like that you have to protect and love, and they aren't the strongest in the world. I always do love that idea. Thank you so much for all your questions and all your answers to questions as well in this week's video. I want to say thank you to the Never Can Repeat Baby Gangsters here on Patreon, Tyfire2, Jamie Bull, Janet the Banana, The Ghost of Inazuma, Felicious Felix, S. Kun, Ewald, Radish, Anusta, Shabata Bread, Malcolm Day, Death Trap, and Lynx Markey, and I'll see you all very soon.